Welcome to your Taylor Council Connection. My name is Daniel Seguin, and this is a recap of the July 23rd, 2026 City Council meeting. The meeting began with the consent agenda, non-controversial and routine items that can be voted on with a single vote. These items included a reimbursement resolution for the city's water and wastewater system. A reimbursement resolution allows the city to pay for a project up front and then reimburse itself later with proceeds from a future debt issuance. It does not commit the city to spending or borrowing any particular amount. It simply preserves the option and gives us flexibility on when and how much debt to issue. This one applies to water and wastewater improvements, including the FM 619 water transmission pipeline and improvements at the Mustang Creek wastewater treatment plant. The consent agenda also included acceptance of the public infrastructure for the Park 79 subdivision, an industrial park located just west of the Taylor Municipal Airport near US 79 and County Road 401, and received the monthly financial report. The council then introduced an ordinance ordering a special election on November 3rd for the proposed amendments to the city charter. The charter is the city's constitution and outlines the responsibilities and restrictions of the city government. As covered in a previous meetings, a Charter Review Commission was appointed in December, and they reviewed the entire charter and recommended a set of amendments. And at the last meeting, the council directed staff to move them toward the November ballot. This ordinance is the formal step that calls that election. The amendments will appear as 7 separate propositions lettered A through G, and voters will consider each one individually. The election will be administered by Williamson County, with early voting running from October 19th through October 30th. This is the first reading of the ordinance, with a second reading and adoption scheduled for August 13th. One change was presented at this meeting. Following council discussion, legal counsel prepared clarifying language for Proposition F. That amendment would require that when the council makes a final binding action on a matter it previously discussed in executive session under a project code name, the agenda must disclose the actual party involved and the type of action to be taken. Next, the council held a public hearing and introduced an employment center plan for a property at 3311 West 2nd Street. An employment center is a zoning classification reserved for major employment and industrial development, and for buildings whose function or configuration does not fit the character of other zoning types. This site is already developed and contains a multi-tenant commercial building housing an industrial welding gas supplier and wine and spirits retailer. The plan would establish the welding gas supply use as permitted, allow an expansion of the fence outdoor storage area, and continue the site's existing small and highway commercial building types. The building footprint itself would not change. This item will come before council for final consideration at a later meeting. The council then approved a new agreement with Axon for tasers for the police department. The taser is the primary, less lethal option our officers carry, giving them an alternative to a firearm in situations that might otherwise escalate. Under the current contract approved in 2022, the department has only 12 tasers shared among all officers. This means that when more than 12 officers are working community events, not everyone has the less lethal option. The new agreement adds 19 more for a total of 31, enough to assign every officer with their own, and upgrades the department from the Taser 7 to the Taser 10. It also includes training equipment, a virtual reality training bundle, extended warranties, and trainer certifications for the length of the contract. The contract term extends from 5 years to 10 years, and the price in the first year stays the same as last year at $12,973. Then increases to $43,925 per year for years 2 through 10. Next, the council awarded the city's bank depository services contract to Regions Bank. State law requires cities to solicit bids for banking services every 5 years. The city has banked with PNC since acquired our previous depository, and in March, the council voted to allow banks within a 10-mile radius of City Hall to bid rather than just those inside city limits. 5 banks submitted proposals and were scored on services and responsiveness, cost, earnings potential, experience, and stability. Regions scored the highest with 97 out of 100 points. Staff noted all 5 banks were competitive, and the deciding factors came down to sweep services, e-lockbox services, and fee structure. The council then returned to the Boards and Commissions Handbook, last updated in 2019. This item came before the council at a previous meeting in June, and staff have since incorporated the changes council requested. The handbook clarifies purpose, authority, roles, and responsibilities for each board, its members, its chairs, and staff liaisons, formalizes ethical expectations, and adds a standardized method for reporting to the council. The newly added changes address how appointments are made. Council appointments would be made exclusively from the list of qualified nominees on the agenda, with each nominee receiving an individual yes or no vote until all vacancies are filled. Any nominee not appointed remains eligible for 2 years. Individuals seeking reappointment would need to reapply, and a person could not serve on more than one board simultaneously, with an exception for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. For ad hoc boards, the rule will now require a call for applications and that at least one representative from each district must be appointed where the applicant pool allows. The update also adds language clarifying that board members speaking publicly outside of meetings should make clear that they are expressing personal opinions, and requires that minutes be uploaded to the city's agenda system within 48 hours of approval. Finally, the council expanded the membership of the Comprehensive Plan and Development Code Advisory Committee by appointing 4 additional members. The committee was established at the June 11th meeting to conduct a deep dive into the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code and recommend amendments. The additional appointments provide more balanced representation across council districts. The council appointed Brian Hickey and Joseph Salazar from District 1 and Christopher Gonzalez and Jerry Sutton from District 2. They will serve alongside the existing membership, participating in public engagement, reviewing draft planning documents, and helping formulate recommendations. During executive session, the council consulted with the city attorney regarding possible purchase of a utility easement across property located along Kent Street for the Tammy Lane Sewer Replacement Project, possible purchase of a drainage and temporary construction easement from the Schmidt property for the Bull Branch Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project, contractor performance and contractual remedies, economic development negotiations for Project Mustang and Project Meridian, and the data center petition. Out of executive session, the council approved a settlement agreement for the Kent Street utility easement for the Tammy Lane Sewer Replacement Project, and a resolution authorizing the use of eminent domain to acquire drainage and temporary construction easements from the Schmidt property for the Bull Branch Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. Thank you for tuning into Your Council Connection. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.